Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're talking Rams. Boy, man, this is an interesting one. How long have we been handicapping NFL? Publicly, 9 years.
Nine
Privately,
years.
15 years. How many examples is there a one shot, one kill, unanimous first overall team that goes wire to wire? This ain't the Premier League, buddy.
One of those Kansas City
teams. La Liga.
One of those Kansas City teams that won the Super Bowl had to be like this. They're starting the season as our number one because they have Patrick Mahomes and they have Tyreek Hill and this is an amazing team. And then they would go on to win the Super Bowl. But I mean, who started? I think we had Ravens as our top team to start the season last year.
Yes.
And I could not imagine who had the year before that. I could double check.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it's very
Chiefs,
tough. And it's funny too.
Maybe the Chiefs.
You know, I kind of downgraded a few things for Seattle because of the changes. And Jesus, my raising desk thing snapped. But some of the things that I had to like pump the brakes a little on. I said, I'll raise my numbers as we get closer to the season for Seattle. For the Rams, it's like, fuck it. You're just really, really good. And you probably were the best team last year. Things happen. You're still amazing. You still have a great coach. What's the knock on this team? I think there's only one really. And it's your quarterback's 100 years old, but he maybe had his best season ever at age 37, 38, whatever he was. I don't know if his wife is getting the same packages that Peyton Manning's was or what's happening with his health, because every year for like 5 years now, it's been like, oh, I'm hearing rumors that, this team, it might be the end of it. It might be the end of the road for Stafford. He's got a back thing. He might just retire before the season starts. And I guess maybe we'll do it again this year. But yeah, and Patrick, yes, this is what happens when you're a good team. You are top heavy. Like great teams who have, the best player at several positions, or at least a top three player at several positions.
Yeah.
It's super hard to have good depth. And
well, yes, there's another wrinkle to this, which is why I was asking you about wire to wire. The Rams are very fragile.
Yeah. And
that comes along with the top heavy aspect. This is I feel like an annual conversation we have. And last year could be perceived one of two ways, I think. It could have been they did solve something in terms of their health and conditioning, and they had a successful season and just a healthy season, thanks to the fact that they had something going on that was keeping specifically their quarterback healthy. Or that could be the exception, right? There's absolutely a world where last year was the year that they got the break and they got a fully healthy year out of Stafford, and this year something goes sideways. And it's a very, very challenging and not very fun part of our, of our general practice to come up with probabilities on those sort of things. But I don't think you can in any way realistically expect that you're going to for sure get 17 games and a fully healthy Stafford come postseason. And if that's not the case, it's Ty Simpson time.
It's extremely difficult, despite this team is number one power rated for me, and it's not close. I have a gap between them and number two, maybe bigger than I've had in previous years because of I've said it 100 times. The power number I'm putting together is for the team that steps out on that field on week one to play against the other team. But when I start doing my other exercises, looking at, the fragility of teams and their schedules, and starting to actually run simulations on how this team plays the year out. Like, yeah, Stafford missing even 5 to 8 games. It's a whole different story. Because there's just a lack of depth there. And there's other, we have Puka's kind of banged up in camp right now. I think he's going to be fine, but you miss him for any serious time, the offense takes a step back. I don't think they're super deep on offensive line. Obviously, the same thing kind of goes with some of the pieces on the defense. So it's crazy because, and Ryan, any team that loses a quarterback is going to be a big step down. But I don't know that there's, we have that clipboard delta. Not every team is going to be the same step down.
It goes beyond Stafford too.
Yeah, Adams is not young.
Sorry, man.
Defensive pieces are not young. I think it's Whittington. Dave Connolly is the wide receiver 3, only because I looked at this like a little ago. But Whittington probably.
Yeah.
Does your wide receiver 3 matter when you have receiving running backs and Puka and Adams? I guess it does a little.
The Puka thing is probably maybe more. I mean, they're both relevant topics of conversation. 1 year ago today, Matthew Stafford was not present and available for much of the Rams camp, and the back issue was so serious. People were wondering, would there be a surprise retirement? Would he take would he kind of get injured over the course of the season and be, this was his last ride. In the end, he was fully healthy, fully functional, and wins an MVP. Some might say it was a little bit of an honorary MVP. That's fine. I won't really fight it. But the general kind of key was you got everything clicked in your favor last year. And even still, you weren't able to win the Super Bowl. And now you're going into a season with a quarterback who is a year older, with the wear and tear of playing 3 playoff games, with the wear and tear of, kind of trying to get ready and, ramp up, with an offensive line that has more question marks this year than it had last year, with the wide receiver room that is thinner this year than probably any other year you've been here. And while there is elite talent all over this roster at all of the important key places, the backfill is awful. And there are lots of years where you can put your bet on a team that is sitting at the top of the odds board, and then get punked by surprise injuries and learning that, now we're at war with a guy that I just really had no interest or confidence that was going to make an impact.
Yeah, this is one where, like I said, highest rated team in the league for me, but can quickly fall off a cliff. And there's a situation where this is a neutral team in 5 weeks, which stinks, obviously, if you're a Rams fan. But that's what happens when you have such a top-heavy team with star players who are all probably bigger injury risks than most because of the age in the sense of Devontae Adams and Stafford and Puka, just because he seems to be a little more prone to that. And he's just a volume guy too. Volume guy takes more hits. He cuts more times. He runs more. He get, banged up. So such is life. Offseason, we'll talk a little offseason, I guess. They did trade an edge for an edge. I have that as an upgrade. I don't know if you want to dig into that at all. I'd rather talk more about Trent McDuffie, but you got the best player. And guess what, Drew? As a little surprise to you, because I'm feeling my oats, we went on and we did a Vikings podcast, and I said, guess what? We don't fuck around here. We don't mince words, and we don't suffer fools. And I'm not going to do a podcast about the Minnesota Vikings and pretend that J.J. McCarthy is going to start the year. KOC didn't like him. They didn't go get Kyler Murray for no reason. He's going to play. So we did it that. And obviously that was announced. everyone figured that was probably going to happen anyway after the last few days. So feeling my oats, I am going to do this podcast under similar pretense. And I am going to rate this defense with Aaron Donald at defensive tackle as well. I'm calling it now. Yeah, Schefter's tweet was so scummy. Like, we get it, guy. You went to Michigan.
God, I don't even want to talk about it.
It was pretty gross. Like, it was
extremely scummy.
Like, JJ's agent and the president of Michigan got
it was such a calculated spin in the words too.
Yeah, like he's forced to be psyched. No, his play forced to be.
It was almost like he's been wronged. Buyer beware if you decide to go to Minnesota, because they're going to fuck you just like they fucked JJ. Never gave him a chance. Like, what a fucking piece of shit. That was awful. I'm glad that came up. Anyway.
I will be making my defensive numbers
with Aaron Donald of course. Of course. But like happening. That's okay. So that's kind of actually a good place to bring up, because as long as you want to talk about fragility, the fragility for me exists almost exclusively on the offensive side of the football. All of a sudden, this team is now loaded and has depth and has youth on the defense at all three levels. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, like if you made me kind of like, even though we had this beaten into our head over the years that defense is less predictable than offense. Andy, have you ever heard that? Year over year, defense is less sticky. And the reason that it's less sticky is because it's a lot of times a reflection of what quarterbacks did you play, more so than it is a true, kind of indicator of the strength of your team. Well, even in the face of that, if you said, if you sat me down and you're like, guess what? One of these units finishes in the top 10, the other does not. I would say, well, the defense finished in the top 10 and the offense did not. And that's because Matthew Stafford's back gave out. The offensive line never came together, and they just had, they had issues facing a very tough schedule of pass rushers. Puka Nacua went AWOL because he got suspended and then hurt and then was rehabbing with in the wrong mindset. Which, by the way, hat tip to
girl.
Well, I was going to say hat tip to my favorite NFL Daily podcast and the hosts saying if Puka could keep his nose clean this season, then everything's going to be just fine. I think those folks that have a little bit of insider knowledge into what's going on with the with the Rams personnel are hoping that Puka does keep his nose clean this year. But even more so, it does sound likely he'll be suspended for some portion of the season at least, and that the backfill in the wide receiver department is super duper suspect. The one other thing about the offense that I have as a bit of a buyer beware for the Rams is that they caught a lot of the league, I think, by surprise with the way that they deployed personnel last year. And now you get a year of tape and a year of defensive coordinators figuring out how they're going to match up with you. I think a lot of the rushing success that the Rams had was basically just a numbers game. It was, they put enough just absurdly good additional blockers out there and deployed them in ways that created space for their running backs where, there were many examples of you give a good running back like Blake or Kyron the ball and nobody touches him till 3.5 yards are gained. Like you've opened your top to surely a successful rushing attempt and potentially an explosive one. And I feel like that was largely what kind of kept the Rams ahead of schedule last year. Never really put Stafford in a position where he was asked to do too much on the late down and distance.
Good run scheme.
It was a great run scheme.
Yeah, the run scheme was good, and it helped him.
I think it was a little shortcut by the personnel. And now everybody's got a year to kind of adjust to how are you doing this. So if we get through first half of the season and the run efficiency is down year over year for the Rams, not going to be stunned. If we get to through the first half of the season and Stafford's numbers aren't quite as clean because he's being asked to do more on the high leverage downs, I'm not going to be surprised. If Stafford is not the quarterback at the halfway point because his back is given up on him, I'm not going to be surprised. Which is to say,
Stetson Bennett the fourth.
Yeah, and this is like kind of a long way of saying you can have two thoughts in your head. The Rams are clearly the best team in the NFL on paper, and that betting $1 on them today is a poor
Scary.
financial decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're taking a chance on. I can't think of the name of the company. They make radar detectors or something. They work out of their mom's garage. They're sweet. I've talked to her on the phone. What is that? It's from Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, where
the
they
name
have
of
like
the company.
the pink slip company that he has to like pitch him on. But it's like, hey, some of those are, you could go really well, but it's a high risk proposition, I think, because of most of it's because of the time that you're putting your money into play. You're putting your money into play
Right.
from a Super Bowl bet. You're putting it in for
The time value of money is bad. The fragility and the downside is bad, and the prices are not even really that great. So why would you lose your mind? Just like, oh yeah, NFL solved. Like they play 262 games. I can't remember how many games we're up to now. They play 262 games and the Rams win. Like if you think it's that simple this year, I good luck to you. I feel like there is a high probability I will bet on the Rams at some point this year. And I can tell you that it is not going to be before Christmas. With that said,
yeah, I'm with you there.
Off-season?
We'll get deeper into that as we talk about how to. Yeah, that was the offseason. Robert Woods, Bobby Trees is on this team. Anyway, Myles Garrett, June 1st, cost you a Jared Verse. Jared Verse is not like a throw-in. Jared Verse is very good. That said, it's still the best defensive player in the league, so you got to give up something. Garrett obviously is going to eat in the free agent market. You picked up Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson from the same team. Those are Kansas City cornerbacks that you're putting in your secondary right now. The Trent McDuffie was a trade. No, that was, I think they actually had to give up a decently high pick for that, or some sort of pick swap. I'll triple check how that went. Not a lot else, though. Grant Stewart, a linebacker from Detroit that played a little bit. He's a special teamer. You got a new long snapper from Miami, Joe Cardona. You got another linebacker that is from the Jets that's just edge depth, maybe special teams, and Tom and Fox. The bigger story outside of Jared versus some of the departures. You lost Kobe Durant to Dallas. Good, not great. It's still a piece you have to replace back there. Akilo Witherspoon to Washington, who later retired. And he was a bang average corner, if that at times. McCreary. This is like a theme for the Rams Seahawks. Like, hey, here's all these secondary pieces that used to play for you that are elsewhere. I think they lost 5 or 6 if you count some of the depth. Rob Havenstein, the right tackle, no longer on the 2026 roster. Is he retire or is he just elsewhere? I got to double check that one.
I think he retired.
I think he did retire. Tutu Atwell in Miami, as we had played that game over the weekend, trying to name Miami receivers. But yeah, McCreary, Kendrick, Williams, Witherspoon, Durant, bunch of secondary pieces, and then some other churn. Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer on the team. You replaced the long snapper. So the other long snapper, McQuaid, is gone. Nick Vannett, tight end, and Nick Hampton, linebacker, are gone in some of the churn. You re-signed Cam Curl in the offseason. You re-signed Tyler Higbee. And you drafted Ty Simpson. You got Ty Simpson.
Do you want to comment on that? Do you want to comment or do you want me to comment?
Go ahead. I'm so bad at
it. It has distinct whiffs of a front office that's feeling themselves a little too much.
It was a pretty high pick for a Ty Simpson.
I will say this.
It's very Penix-esque.
I thought when the Rams traded out of round 1 in the previous year's draft and accumulated the extra pick for this year, that was going to be a pretty useful kind of tool to find your quarterback of the future, right? Like it seemed like they were looking well into the future, and they were like, we got to replace Stafford at some point here. Let's accumulate some capital next year's draft, and we'll get a guy then. And then they just kind of stuck to that plan, even though it's not obvious that they did need to replace Stafford that quickly, and that there wasn't a guy that they really could do it for. Was it Aerotime? Was the
Aerotime International? Humongous upside. Thank you, Sam.
Humongous upside. But yeah, it was not clear that with that pick, that's what you should do anymore. And it also was clear as you look across your roster that there were other holes, particularly wide receiver, that could and should be addressed. And rather than addressing those, it feels like you wasted a pick on Ty Simpson, and then everything after the draft, where it felt like Sean McVay was pissed that that's the direction you went, is never good for an organization to have internal friction like that. And then the further addendum to the story, where there was personal relationships between the GM and this guy's family, makes it all look like a monumental clusterfuck. And so if you're going to be that sloppy on draft night with the pick that's in the top 15, when you're pursuing a championship with as much, YOLO as we've ever seen, I don't understand why you conduct yourself that way. And I think it's going to probably turn out to be pretty similar to like the Niners going ape shit, trading their future, getting Trey Lance, and then ultimately paying a price deep into the future when their depth all of a sudden is challenged as their Hall of Famers age out. That's my gut.
Yeah, I mean, you're deep, or you're not deep, but you have established players at so many of the spots that are like, I'm not sure what you do there other than, hey, let's go get Mekhi Lemon, let's go get, you're not drafting like a starting offensive lineman. Probably, I think you kind of got your guys established. Vega or Blake Miller, Freeling probably aren't bouncing somebody off the line. So I'm not sure what you're doing, because it's clearly a why don't you move back, or why are you in this spot? Why did you why was this the Atlanta pick anyway? It did feel weird, because even like a Ruben Bain maybe feels very superfluous because of the trade you made to get Garrett, but like let the guy rotate in and kind of get a feel for the league, and maybe you have him for a good long time as well. So I'm not super sure what you do in that first round instead. You're probably drafting backups. You should be trading back, as good teams tend to do. So it was weird. They did like his fit, apparently, is that, I think you can say this is true or you can say this is spin, but they do like the college tape fits the scheme. That said, if McVay doesn't like it, you know what McVay can do? I don't know what his contract looks like, but McVay can say, trade me, or if I'm not under contract for that much longer, I'm willing to eat some of this and leave. There's like 30 teams that'd be happy to have, there's probably 10 teams right now. If they said, hey, Sean McVay wants to be your head coach, but you have to fire the coach you have in place right now on August 12th. Be like, give me that guy's extension. He's fucking gone.
Yeah.
If McVay truly isn't happy with the situation, he's young still. He's got a lot of time. It kind of feels like if he is pissed, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of the next few years. That's a conversation for a different day. The rest of the draft, real quick, they drafted a tight end from Ohio State. I don't know that he's going to be meaningful. They have Parkinson, Higbee, Ferguson. So he's like tight end 5. This is a second round pick. Kind of felt weird as well. I guess maybe he has a strong camp. Offensive tackle from Missouri, swing depth. He could probably play in interior as well. Keegan Trost. And then a wide receiver in the 6th round. They finally did go get a person to join that room, kind of a late round flyer, and a defensive lineman for depth behind Puna. From Alabama, another Alabama. They bookended it with Alabama players. Tim Keenum the third, another nose tackle. And that was, if you were keeping track, your first defensive pick of the draft in the 7th round, 232 overall.
Wow. Jeez. All right. Well, I don't know. I mean, getting Myles Garrett gives you an A+ for your offseason.
Yep, you win.
Fuck them.
Good job.
Very, very fuck them picks kind of a experience here. And I would say that your clear and obvious need across your roster from an upgrade standpoint was your cornerback play, and Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie are both good cornerbacks. You ironically, your safeties and Quentin Lake were your best coverage players last year, and you retained those guys. So, I don't see a hole with this defense.
Yeah, they traded like 6 okay to bad corners for 2 good ones.
Yeah, pretty much.
And McDuffie can play like every position back there. If you know, I don't think you need him to play safety. You have good safeties, but he can bump around to. He can be a slot. He can be outside. I think you have some nice.
Watson is just good, but he's your CB2, so that's fine. McDuffie is excellent,
and Watson is actually a boon in the run stop as well. Actually, they both kind of are. I have McDuffie and Watson with decent run stop grades. Again, small samples, but
for their positions,
for being a corner.
So. Good job getting Myles Garrett. I was positive for, this was a win-win trade. Putting Myles Garrett on a team that's going to be in the playoffs and pursue a Super Bowl is flat out awesome. Getting back a player like Jared Verse for a player like Myles Garrett, who's on your timeline with your rebuild is good.
Great for the Browns,
Yeah, this is good. This was a win-win trade, and I hope Myles Garrett plays all 17 games and absolutely wrecks the league and wins DPOY again, because that's the ceiling. I have milder kind of what to expect about Aaron Donald. He's been out of football a long time. I don't know that I'm like honestly even really dying to take Brandon Fisk, Poona Ford, and Kobe Turner off the field all that often.
No.
So
I think the reports already have been.
It.
The reports already have been like, if he comes back this week, it seems like he's in pretty good shape still, but he hasn't played football, and they're like, I don't know, 30 snaps week 1, maybe, if he's gonna be rotational to start, which is still, if you can put him and Garrett out there on like 3rd and long, I guess fuck you. Fuck you. That's basically what you're saying to the other team.
Yeah, your 3rd down conversion rate could set an all-time low for a defense, which would be pretty killer. All right. Should have addressed the wide receiver room, honestly, they tried. They were very much in the mix for the AJ Brown deal. And I don't know if they felt like they had to make a choice between pursuing Brown and pursuing Garrett or what, but that was not rumor. That was actually in the mix. That was actually in the Rams, I think, were the other major suitor there besides the Pats. You want to talk ratings, or you got any other thoughts?
Yeah, I was just trying to remember how they had the Falcons pick there. That was all the swapping around for like Pierce.
That was the Falcons trading up for Pierce.
Yeah,
after taking Jalen Walker,
and they gave them their 1st rounder, which ended up being the 13th. And it's funny because everybody, you mentioned the wide receiver, kind of last thoughts on that. Everybody who made a mock put a wide receiver in that spot to the Rams. It felt like
a
lot. And
I think Mekhi Lemon had already bought a house in Inglewood.
Yeah, he was
ready. He was expecting
it to live there.
Now, granted, he wasn't going to make an immediate impact for you anyway, apparently. But there were a lot of really good wide receivers who were drafted in the range that you could have taken and you didn't. And if you wanted, the process criticism, even if you were determined to come out of this draft with Ty Simpson on your roster, there was no clamoring for Ty Simpson. He was a question mark whether he was going to go in round 1. If he went in round 1, it was going to be late in round 1. Trade down, take a wide receiver, or take Simpson there. I don't care. But the way they handled it and as high as they took him, I thought was they were feeling themselves a little. That said, Andy.
Before we get to ratings real quick, thank you to our sponsor, Circa and the Circa contest, Circa Survivor, Circa Millions, and Circa Grandissimo. Get your ass out to the desert. Sign up in Nevada, play from anywhere. Congrats to the guys in the Discord. I have now a small owner of 6 Survivor entries.
Yeah.
That's a fun way to do it. If you have a bunch of guys that want to get together on it and you have one person who maybe lives in Nevada, Utah, Arizona, or they're just willing to fly out there, that's a fun way to do it. Get in with your friends and try to split 20 to 25 million a few different ways. So we'll be signing up for a few entries of our own in a few weeks when we're out for sign up weekend. We invite you to join us and come have a beer with us because we are going out. We have dinner reservations for Friday. We have a podcast to do that'll take an hour. Other than that, I have 0 things on the schedule outside of I think there's some open bars that they're going to have for that. And obviously we'll go to those and say hi to people, but yeah, pop out if you want.
We do have dinner on Thursday. Lockdown.
Okay.
The Omakase rooftop place.
I thought that was Friday.
Oh, Thursday. Sorry. Thursday.
Okay. Well, we got one dinner it's locked in. Can't get out of that at this point. Yeah. Nor would I want to. All right, power ratings. I'm at a 7.1.
For QBSC.
Quarterback OC.
I'm at a 7.4.
We have Sean McVay, who is a very, very big number. I'm going to assume that Stafford takes a step back in the interception department. There's just no way a guy goes out there and throws as many passes and touchdowns as he does and doesn't have any interceptions, basically. So I'm a little lower on that. I just have to regress a little for the age. But again, this number is probably basically the only thing that's knocking this number down is the fact that he is 39 years old.
You'd rather have a quarterback in his prime, like age 29?
Yeah, I'd rather have I wouldn't mind Stafford in his prime. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to see him wearing a Lions uniform.
I'm at 7.4. If I just took his numbers from last year and assumed we are going to run it back identically, I would have been more like an 8 point like something.
8.5. Yeah.
8.5, somewhere in that range. But I am rating over a broader sample. And I am expecting that there is a high likelihood that last year's numbers are going to be as good as we ever see. And that's because they were as good as than anyone has ever done. And so just gravity of year over year, kind of randomness, I think pulls it down into the 7s. I'm at 7.4. And yeah, the turnovers are going to be the huge thing to watch. And really the turnovers, if they're behind schedule, if they're a little bit behind the sticks where they should be on third downs, is kind of where I'm going to be mostly keyed into Stafford in this offense, because they don't have very many get out of jail free cards in the passing game. And yeah, if they're asking to go, if they have to go longer, things could get a little bit tricky for them. So that's what I will be watching for. The skill position group for me for the Rams is an 8.8. Feels high as I say it out loud. I guess I'm assuming that Nakua is healthy and available for week 1. If it's not, I'm probably in more like the 5 range. Puka's my wide receiver 1 when available and healthy. There was, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Andy, but he got taken out of, or he took himself out of joint practices with the Cowboys. They said it doesn't seem serious, which I'm going to take to mean he's torn his groin and he's out at least the first 6 weeks of the season.
They do tend to lie about that sometimes. No, Puka is important. I'm at a 7.3, pretty high. Like Puka, God, did he have? I think if you count the playoffs, like that's a 2,000-yard season. It just it's so important. He had like 150 fucking catches. Devontae Adams had 15 touchdowns. From there, it's a little tough. Like I said, we have three tight ends on roster that are names that we know. I don't have massive grades on them, but some of them is just the volume that's going to Puka anyway. Williams, Corum, Ronnie Rivers, decent running back room that I'm going to attribute more to the scheme and the offensive line play than the running backs, but they're good. They're above average. So it's very good. And yeah, I'm a little worried about Puka. I'm going to move this number based on two things. If he's healthy and playing and practicing for the next 3 weeks, and also if he's not suspended for biting a person, because there is talk of him being suspended, which kind of is a nice segue into the next section, because we also have the same worry with your left tackle, Alaric Jackson, who possibly could be suspended under the personal conduct policy with some off-season domestic battery accusations. It's downgraded. It sounded like there were worries it was going to be a felony to start, which is like, hey, you're missing some time, buddy. It's not going to be felony charges, which is a little better. Still, don't assault people. Let's be nice to everyone. But yeah, if he misses and Puka misses, this week 1 number is going to look a little different.
Well, I was going to ask you this, regardless of hearing the note yesterday about the potential suspensions, but if there's like pending criminal investigations, is there?
You should wait. Yeah.
Well, you should wait, but are there immigration visa issues with going to Australia?
I don't know. That's interesting.
They're really touchy about like small stuff, aren't they?
Yeah. So
they didn't let Djokovic in, and all he did was he wouldn't get the jab.
Yeah. And the big worry for me for Jackson is the fact that like he's been suspended before under the PCP, the personal conduct policy. And a lot of times when you get your second one, it's 6 games. Or the fact that
yes.
The baseline for domestic violence right now is roughly that 6-game suspension. No, domestic violence usually 6. Okay. And they're saying the worry is that because he's been suspended before already, they could hammer him for 8, 10 a season if this is really heinous and it comes out. I don't know. So I don't want to speculate. It's just obviously something to really keep an eye on, because he's your full-time starter at left tackle, guys.
My Rams O-line number is the weak part of their offense, and it is a 6.6. As I look across this line, I actually don't rate the tackles that well.
No, it's reverse from Seattle. It's incredibly strong interior.
Yeah.
The interior is amazing, and I think if you get decent play out of Jackson and McClendon, this could be a top line. I have it as
Avila. We got Avila. We got Dotson here. And yeah, Shelton's solid. So
yeah, I'm at an 8. I'm at an 8, and I really like a good interior I think it matches up well for having a super old quarterback who can't run fast. Hey, let's have a strong interior so they can't get immediate pressure up the middle. It meshes well with the style of play, and by style of play I mean his age. So I'm going to keep an eye on McClendon a little, see how that goes with him replacing Rob, and I think Jackson might also have I guess that blood clot thing too. So a lot of moving pieces with the left tackle between the battery charges and him having to have scheduled maintenance days apparently. So keep an eye on that.
Good thing Good thing you drafted Keegan Trost.
You could have. That's why I said, like, you're not going to draft somebody to start probably with these linemen at the 13th pick. But you could have drafted somebody to maybe start if you needed them somewhere down the season to save your ass. So, Kevin Dotson, amazing run blocking number. Avila was high. McClendon actually is a high enough grade coming in. So I have a pretty good offense here.
Yep, same. Number 1 in football, 76th percentile as rostered. If Puka is out for week 1, that drops my number. And let's take Jackson out too, just so since we're doing this exercise. They are a 66.5 percentile, which is sixth best in the NFL, and it knocks almost 2 points off of my power rating for them. My neutral power rating drops to about 5.
Which is a bunch.
Yeah. Defense. I'm warm, but potentially low as the fourth best defense in football here. My run stop is 5.4. Although I love me some Nate Landman. And my pass rush is 7.6. This is the best pass rush in football. My coverage number is a 6.6, a 6.7. And I worried I'm a little bit high on the Chiefs. Just because, I don't know. Do you have an opinion on the Snead leaving the Chiefs and immediately sucking, and how much of the Chiefs cornerbacks being good is a Spagnuolo signal, not a?
That's
Chiefs
interesting. We did
signal.
that with linemen from the Ravens the other year, and some of that has a bit of signal where it's like, hey, these guys that leave Baltimore, they just don't play as well anymore when they're not. And some of it is just, I wonder if they're playing a different kind of game because they have Lamar back there, and what he does is unique to a lot of different quarterbacks. So I don't know. I'm higher than you on all these grades. I have a better defense. But remember, I have Aaron Donald playing 35 snaps week 1, guys.
What is your pass rush
not
number?
Incredibly higher. Like pass rush 7.9, with Garrett and I mean, here's the thing, like, we love Myles Garrett, obviously best player, but like Byron Young would be the best pass rusher on I don't know, a handful of, not more than a handful, a bunch of teams. There's a bunch of teams that don't have a Byron Young. I love Byron Young. So you got a good outside linebacking duo. You have a great,
there were a lot of weeks he outperformed Jared Verse last year.
Yeah.
Jared Verse got the splash plays.
Yeah, it's crazy, but like when I go look at my Byron Young stuff, it's like this guy's super good. And then Fisk, Ford, Turner, great front, Landman, Spates, bringing up the linebacker.
It's really good. God damn it, these guys have good players.
Yeah, and then I mean my run stop it's below Seattle's, but I'm at a 7.4. This is probably a little high because I just kind of made a manual adjustment for putting Donald in there, but at the same time, I'm probably not putting him out there for running plays. So I'm probably going to drop this back down. Like if I'm bringing him in, he's like, hey, you're playing meaningful. You're playing every third down, and you're playing meaningful second downs or some spots here and there. So that said, it's still a very good run stop unit. And then my coverage was a 7.4. I do like both corners that they brought in. I do like the safety room quite a bit. And I don't mind Quentin Lake as a fifth guy, man.
I like Quentin Lake a lot. He's your third guy.
I mean, if you want to rank him 1 through 5, I always say like your Nicholas, your fifth guy.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. He's the third most talented out of that starting unit, I think.
Yes, no, that makes sense. I know what you're saying.
I don't actually know much about Cameron Kitchens, so that's kind of an interesting, weird one. My run stop number is maybe a little lower because I actually, as much as I like Nate Landman as far as a tackling machine, his run stop is a little bit question marky. He is a good cover linebacker, though. I think this is a really good cover group. 6.7 for me is pretty close to. You're approaching rare air here. Like no one's touching Denver, Houston, Seattle for me coverage wise, but Rams are right in there in the top of the next tier.
They were similar to the Seattle number as far as run stop for me as well, where I used more secondary pieces in that number than I'm doing on other teams. But at the same time, I look and I'm fine with it because their run stop success rate was high enough where those tackles are being made in the right spots. It wasn't safeties dragging a guy down by the shoelace 40 yards down the field.
Okay. What is the Rams' overall their overall defensive rating for you? Are they in the top 3? Are you 1-1?
Yes. No, Denver's ahead of them. Houston's ahead of them.
Third?
Yeah, I have a third. It's
But
very
Seattle?
close. Seattle. So I have Denver number 1. And then it's pretty close with the Rams, Seattle, Houston, Philly. God, who's way up there? It's crazy. The Bills are so high on my rating, but their numbers way low for that. I have them ahead, they're ahead of Minnesota for now.
Okay.
Ahead of the Steelers and some of the other teams I kind of in that secondary range. But yeah, they're up there. It's top 3.
It's worth noting to me that teams like Minnesota, Seattle, Philly are a nice combination of scheme that I will go to war with and talent that kind of fits that scheme. Minnesota is probably the last of those 3 examples,
and
right?
Great coordinators.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's the coordinator and it's the scheme that really kind of has my high confidence that you should have good defensive performances there. The Rams, it's literally just personnel. I know. I almost feel like Chris Shula is the next defensive coordinator hire that doesn't work out as a head coach.
Yeah.
Does that mean?
No, that's not mean. That checks out 100%. So I'm a 6.2. I don't know if you moved yours at all, but the chart says you're a 6.4. To the plus, this is our number 1 team. Our number 1 team last year. And still incredibly fragile. Let's look at the schedule.
So it's worth notable, even though your overall team percentile is higher than mine, because they're the number 1 offense and because I'm pricing mine as figuring out median percentile against an average team, that this offense is going to score minus median percentile, but they're going to concede to an average team to get my power number. Even though I'm a lower overall team percentile, because their offense is so far out there as the number 1, I'm pretty rosy on them as far as being close to a +7. Andy, the Rams are favored a lot. I don't know if that's a surprise to you. They're favored in every game but 1. I will say, though, that whereas the Seahawks schedule feels set up pretty well to give them a soft landing on their championship defense tour, the Rams schedule to me feels like you have a target on your back. Everyone knows you are the expected winner of the Super Bowl, and we're going to give a lot of teams shots at you in consecutive weekends early in this sequence. The key loss of a home game in division to an international game is a kick in the dick. And then at Denver, at Philly, back to back that early in the season, just sucks. That's a tough draw. And then you put a little cherry on Buffalo coming to town with a point to prove, looking for their first win, week 5. I'm just kidding. I don't hate Buffalo that much. But yeah, you got a great mix of difficult championship contenders to deal with in your first 5 weeks. And then you also have to deal with flying to and from Melbourne.
Yeah, that's kind
record
of
record after week 5. Give me your percent chances that the Rams are 5-0, 4-1, 3-2, or 2-3. I'm not going to entertain a 1-4.
I'm going 100% 3-2. No, I mean that's I think that's my most common outcome there. Like you should just beat the ever living tar out of the Giants. You should split the Buffalo San Francisco. I think you split the Buffalo San Francisco. You split the Denver Philly. Like 3-2 with 2-3 is your second most likely.
4-1
because those are those are 3 tough games in a row, and the Niners is not an easy game as well, especially considering it is not technically a home game, a weird travel spot. You're going to try out what we think is the right way to do it. Just take the red eye, sleep on the plane, get the good plane where you have beds, show up in Melbourne, get the job done, go back home. You have 11 days before you have to play. They didn't give you a bye, but at least they gave you a fourth place team in that spot.
Yeah. No.
Like they didn't, no disrespect to the Giants. It's still an NFL team and they have some very good players, but it could have been worse. It could have been San Francisco. And then, hey, guess what? We give you 11 days, but then you're heading a mile high. I think things can always be worse, I suppose. So it's a tough stretch. And then respite, obviously, with 5 very winnable games in a row. 3 of them almost certainly have to happen with the 2 Arizonas and the Vegas. Like 4-1 is bare minimum through that stretch if you want to be competing for this division.
Yeah, that sounds right. Rams, by the way, are out to -4 for that Niners game, week 1. That crosses 3 for me if Puka's out.
Yeah,
I don't want to bet the Niners. I don't really want to do it. I don't want to count on them being ready for week 1 with how fucked up their camp has been so far. But I think I'm gonna have to play it because I'm gonna expect it to cross 3 if it sounds like Puka's no go. All right, man. Key sequence for them for ultimately getting the 1 seed is coming out of their bye. You face elite quarterbacks in Green Bay, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Dallas. 4 elite quarterbacks. Your defense better be sharp as it's ever going to be for that stretch, because those are all like that's war every week with who you're up against in terms of being able to score 30 points against you. And then finishing with Seattle, Tampa, Seattle decides whether or not you're a 1 seed or a wild card. I don't have a ton of heartburn of being on the Rams as a wild card team in this NFC miasma. I guess what is the strategy that stands out to you as the sharper strategy between trying to buy low on the Rams if they're 2 games behind Seattle at their bye week versus letting their regular season play out and then betting them week in, week out, rollover style once they get to the playoffs if they're a wild card?
Yeah, I was going to say it's either do that once they get to the playoffs because you have such a high opinion of the team. Plus, you have much more knowledge at that point. You know if they're healthy. You know what's going to happen. Dave Conley's saying Rams to miss the playoffs. I think that's kind of a fun bet just based on, man, there's a floor that could fall out if 1 or 2 injuries, how thin they are. We've harped on that the whole podcast. But the other thing too is like after the bye, possibly playing, or maybe not after the bye, before that stretch there, the Arizona, Vegas, Chargers, Washington, Arizona stretch, if there are like 2-3, seeing what their NFC price is, because I see like 10 more wins on the schedule after that. And, if they win 11 or 12 games, they're in the playoffs and you're getting a better number on them. And, some of that depends on the Seattle. They could feasibly still win the division despite going 2-3 to start. You basically need to double up on Seattle late in the season. Then it's probably you finish with the same record as Seattle, but you've beat them twice. And then you are the 2 seed, possibly even the 1 seed with 12 wins. I'm not sure that there's an NFC North team that's running away with 13-14. I'm not sure that that's happening in the East. And I'm certainly not feeling like that's going to happen in the South. So maybe the 1 seed doesn't need 13 or 14 wins this year. And you could possibly sneak out a really ugly, great path by beating Seattle twice late, with that last one being at home. You imagine holding a decent NFC ticket after that stretch. I think that's the entry point. If you want to go against them, like Dave pointed out, it's them to miss the playoffs. That's one too. If you are a PM person, if you want to do some round tripping, Rams to miss the playoffs, hope they go 1-4, and then just take your money, take some winnings instead of having to sit on the whole thing. Take half of it in, at a 30-40% increase in value, rather than sitting on it for another 12 weeks.
What's you gonna save Seattle for Survivor Week 16? I mean, what do you make Ty Simpson on the road at Seattle in that Christmas night game?
Oh God, I think it'd be bad. I think it'd be Stetson Bennett.
You think they're not even going to play Ty Simpson if push comes to shove?
I don't know. That's not a defense I'd want to play him against on Christmas on the road. Hey, buddy,
so what's
go
your
have
Stetson,
fun.
What's your Stetson Bennett?
About the same. I mean, it depends.
Is that an 11.5? You think?
If they've shut Donald down at that point, because it's like, hey, we're bad. Like Stafford's out. We're not going to play you because you're old, and we'll see where some of the other guys. But yeah, man. At Seattle, you're like an 8.5, 9, 10. Stafford to Bennett or Simpson is like a 6 to 8 point move, I suppose.
That sounds right to me. I mean, are you better off just starting Myles Garrett under center?
Just Wildcat with Garrett. Donald in the eye. Oh, that'd be fun.
That would be fun. All right. In seriousness, this Rams team could and should consider themselves likely to win the Super Bowl. But again, the schedule sequencing and the timing, timing your market entry on the Rams makes you the most money in football this year, probably. At least in the futures pool. Is that right? It's not going to make you Survivor Millions money, but it's gonna make you, I think, a winner in the futures book if you're correctly timing when to get on and off the Rams, or when to get on the Seahawks, on the Rams, off the Seahawks, off the Rams.
Yeah. I think this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna absolutely, a lot of my bankroll is not in the sports books because I've already spoken about this. I struggle with degenning on soccer too much, and it's better for me if it's just not in there. I just leave enough to bet on golf. And when I readjust where my money's going this fall, normally it would be, a bunch in bookmaker, bunch in bet online, bunch in Bovada. I think the Kalshis and the Novigs are going to have a little more of that pie this year because I think I'm going to enjoy doing a little more futures betting. I've become a little disenchanted with futures betting. I used to love it, and then you kind of start to think more about the time value of money, like you said. And it kind of bums you out. Like,
there's nothing cooler though than putting up a standing order at a price that you're like, boy, I would love if it gets to this price, and then bam,
yeah,
you're in. It's good.
Yeah. Novig's a good platform. I enjoy Kalshi and Novig. I use ProfitX a little too, but it's funny. Like Kalshi often has the best. It's funny. Kalshi often has the best golf prices, and then this weekend I get to talk to who I'm betting against. Last weekend, rather. It's like just be ready.
Save us the fees.
Yeah. Cut out.
All right. Good pods. NFC West is a wrap. We'll be back with the AFC West next week, where we're probably going to have a little bit more disagreement. So excited to hear how that plays out, and we'll see you then.